no such thing, Billy.
Then suffer!
The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy 2001 cartoon explored. Everyone has been obsessed with the shows on Cartoon Network, from kids to adults. In fact, the late 1980s and the early 2000s were a time when Cartoon Network brought many different worlds to our screen. Among those fantastic new shows, we were introduced to a very new concept in the series known as The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Even though the protagonists of this series are two young kids, the creator of the show added a twist that no one could have imagined for a kids series. The duo of Billy and Mandy go on several supernatural adventures and are accompanied by the Grim Reaper, who happens to be their best friend. How did two kids end up befriending the literal representation of death? And why would he hang out with kids? In this video, we will answer all your questions as we explore everything about the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy. So, without further delay, let us dive right into the video. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. What the cartoon television series is all about. The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy is an animated television series that was created for Cartoon Network. It is the brainchild of the talented American animator and scriptwriter Maxwell Atoms. With its release in 2001, it was initially introduced as a part of the series Grim and Evil, which consisted of two segments, one of them being Billy and Mandy, and another series known as Evil Con Khan. Later on, in 2003, both these series were a spin-off from Grim and Evil and came as separate series from the third season. Billy and Mandy have 6 seasons and a total of 77 episodes with 160 segments. The series ended in 2007. The idea for this series actually came into existence in 1995. Maxwell Atoms had to create a 2-minute short film for his thesis project at the University of Arts in Philadelphia. So he came up with the concept of two characters known as Billy and Mandy, who were discussing trepanning. The short is titled Billy and Mandy in the Trepanation of the Skull Anew. In this short, Mandy drilled a hole in Billy's skull and he passed out due to extreme blood loss despite claiming that he felt fantastic. Now, when Maxwell was working on an animated comedy series known as Cow and Chicken, the production company of Hanna-Barbera approached him to create some new short films. They wanted him to create a series based on the characters Billy and Mandy. Now, Maxwell had always thought of creating a show where a young girl would become friends with the Grim Reaper. So he decided to include a third character in the story of Billy and Mandy, which is the Grim Reaper. The first season of Billy and Mandy contains 18 episodes in total, and some of them have 2 or 3 different segments. Let us now take a look at the first segment of the first episode of the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, which is titled Meet the Reaper. The story begins with Billy playing with toys in his house. When Mandy arrives, she asks him to take her to Mr. Snuggles, Billy's hamster. It is Mr. Snuggles' 10th birthday, which is obviously pretty strange for a hamster. Billy makes Mr. Snuggles do a trick to show Mandy, who is least bothered. Billy says kiss kiss to Mr. Snuggles and the old hamster jumps on his nose and bites him. Soon, out of nowhere, a strange green ray of light and smoke emerges in the thin air in their room. Mandy tastes it and thinks that it is a swirling vortex of pure evil coming out of the floor. Just then, a black skeleton figure along with his scythe, the Grim Reaper, appears. Billy confuses him with Santa Claus, and the Grim Reaper looks offended. It looks like he has come to take Mr. Snuggles away. However, he's surprised to see how calm the two kids are upon seeing him. He even tries to scare them by showing his skeleton body, but neither of them flinch. Mandy offers the Grim Reaper some tea and says that she cannot allow him to take Mr. Snuggles. Instead, she suggests that they play a game. If he wins, he can have the hamster, but if Billy and Mandy win, the hamster stays. The Grim Reaper seems to love this idea since he likes playing games, so he tells them that if they win, he will become their best friend forever. He then opens a gate into another dimension using his scythe and everyone follows. This place is known as Limbo, and they are going to play the Grim Reaper's favorite game known as Limbo. It is an age-old children's game where you have to bend as low as possible in order to cross the stick from underneath it. When the Grim Reaper notices that Mandy was able to just walk past it, he decides to cheat and lowers the stick even more. But Billy was also able to cross it, so he lowered it to the point where he was the only one who could cross it. However, just when he is halfway through, Mandy says kiss kiss to the hamster and it jumps on the Grim Reaper. This causes the Grim Reaper to lose his balance, and as a result, he trips over the stick and loses the game. So as per the rules, Billy and Mandy now get to keep Mr. Snuggles, and the Grim Reaper becomes their best friend. It looks like he is no longer the master of the forces of life and death. They all go back home and get to be with the Grim Reaper, as his body gives company to Billy in his room, while his head is with Mandy in her room. The second segment is titled Skeletons in the Water Closet. In this segment, we meet Billy's parents. His mother, Gladys, goes to Billy's room to wake him up in the morning, and the Grim Reaper emerges from the covers to tell her to close the curtains. She gets scared, thinking that the son has turned into a skeleton, so she runs to the kitchen to find Billy's father, Harold. When Harold goes to Billy's room, he sees Billy sitting on his bed, who clearly does not look like a skeleton. Due to this, Harold dismisses anything that Gladys says, and even if she is left confused. Grim then goes to the bathroom to take a bath. Gladys thinks that Billy is in the shower, but when she removes the curtains, she sees the skeleton once again and yells for Harold. Just then, since Billy needs to use the washroom, he sends Grim out. When Harold opens the bathroom door, he finds Billy. Harold thinks that maybe Gladys is sick, so he asks her to lie in bed and rest, because the skeleton is just in her head. Mandy comes over to the house and they decide to play hide and seek with Grim. As Billy and Mandy are hiding, Gladys finds them and is glad to see that her son has not turned into a skeleton. But then Grim comes looking for Billy and Mandy, and Gladys once again starts to lose her mind upon seeing him and has a meltdown. As a result, Harold decides to send Gladys away to stay with his older sister, Sis, so that she can get some rest. The episode comes to an end with Grim's evil laugh, since he has finally managed to scare someone. The third segment is titled Opposite Day. It begins with Billy and Grim visiting Mandy's house. Grim does not really like playing with the two because he finds them too annoying, but since he has no other option, he tags along. After opening the door, Mandy tells them to get out, but Billy rushes inside. As it turns out, this day is called the Opposite Day, and whatever you say means the opposite. So when she asks them to get out, she actually meant to come in. The three of them start playing a video game, but since it's a new thing for Grim, he finds it hard to compete with Billy and Mandy and constantly loses. He gets annoyed, so he chooses not to play. Mandy then suggests that maybe he should do all her chores, but Grim denies it. However, since it is the opposite day, it would actually mean that he wants to do it. So the Grim gets tricked into washing Mandy's dishes and mowing the lawn, but it looks like their demands are unending. Next, Mandy asks Grim to cheer up her dog by giving him a kiss, but Grim gets angry and says he will not do it. So he ends up getting tricked once again and is forced to kiss the dog. Grim wishes he could just kill Billy and Mandy with his scythe, but that is not an option for him. Grim feels too exhausted from the opposite day and just wants Billy and Mandy to stop it. Billy then brings a pie for them to eat, but Grim finally picks up his scythe and swings it in the air. Well, he obviously did not slice Billy and Mandy in half. In fact, he ended up cutting the pie into 4 pieces. Soon after, when Billy mentions that they deserve pie, Grim reminds him that it is the opposite day, so he tries to take the pie away from them. But it looks like Mandy is a little too smart. Earlier in the day, she told Grim that it was the opposite day. So technically, it means that it was not the opposite day, and Grim did all those chores for nothing. The episode comes to an end as Grim goes insane. Exploring the main characters of the cartoon series, Mandy. The character of Mandy is voiced by Gray DeLise. Mandy is the most brilliant and most intelligent character in the series. She knows how the world really works despite being very young, and also knows how to get things done. But she is not someone who is sweet, kind, and always generous. In fact, she is the opposite. Mandy is definitely the meanest character, and she constantly manipulates people around her. In fact, even her parents, Philip and Claire, are quite afraid of her. So, in order to please her and keep her from getting angry, her mother Claire regularly spoils her with material things like money, expensive gifts, or anything she might want to buy. Even her father Philip does not say anything to her and does whatever she asks him to do, including her chores. Mandy often also calls Billy dumb in front of of other people. However, Billy is her best friend, and despite being cruel to basically everyone, she has a soft corner for him and tries to be there for him whenever he needs her. From the very first episode of the series, we have seen Mandy arrogant and full of attitude. She rarely ever smiles, and her expressions make her look as if she's constantly annoyed, which she generally is. She has a superiority complex since she considers herself to be the cleverest. She is great at making people do what she wants them to do. We saw this earlier on the Opposite Day segment when she basically turned the Grim Reaper into her slave. She also seems to like annoying Grim because it makes her feel as if she is in control. In her best moments, she can be considered an anti-hero, but in her worst moments, she also turns into a villain. However, on the bright side, she is quite badass, as she always gets Trio out of any trouble that Billy might have caused. Throughout the series, she has barely shown positive emotions because she is either annoyed, angry, or irritated. In fact, for someone who does not like people, she even has thoughts of taking over the Earth and being the ultimate powerful being. What makes her interesting as a funny character is how well she is paired with Billy, despite being utterly different from him. Billy. The character of Billy is voiced by Richard Stephen Horowitz. Billy is that kid from your junior class who is always hyperactive, jumps around for no reason, and makes a fool of himself. He is as dumb as a character can be, given that he has an IQ of -5, and that is not an exaggeration. In fact, even non-living objects like a shovel would be more intelligent than him. He always manages to get himself in trouble due to his curiosity and drags Mandy and Grim along with him. When Billy first saw the Grim Reaper, he thought it was Santa Claus, who had come to celebrate Mr. Snuggles' 10th birthday and brought gifts. It was evident from that moment on that Billy was the stupid one of the two. He is also highly optimistic and sees the bright side of things. The innocence of his age is very evident in his behavior, and just like most kids, he does not think before doing anything. It is safe to assume that perhaps Billy got his silliness and idiocy from his father, because they seem to act pretty similarly on multiple occasions. In fact, since Mandy is the bossy one, she often beats Billy with a hard object on his head, so there is no doubt that he keeps becoming even more foolish as the show progresses. Throughout the series, we also get to see that Billy is highly insensitive to pain. A lot of times, when his own flesh is ripped apart, his nose bursts or bones poke out from his body, he does not seem to feel any pain. Perhaps this is also because of his low IQ and inability to understand a lot of things. Billy is almost never seen getting angry or violent. Unlike Mandy, he is usually the calmer kid, despite being the most mischievous. While the character of Mandy introduces dark humor into the series, Billy's character brings comedy through his constant stupidity and lack of judgment. He is also the clingiest character, since he prefers to do everything with his two best friends, Mandy and Grim. The Grim Reaper. The character of the Grim Reaper is voiced by Greg Eagles, and he has a Jamaican accent in this series. Maxwell Atoms, the creator of the series, describes Grim's character as cantankerous, and there is no doubt about it because he's almost always at a horribly bad temper. After all, he got stuck on Earth against his wishes as the best friend of Billy and Mandy. However, he appears to be more like their slave and less like their best friend. If there is something in the world that Grim loves deeply, it is his scythe and his job. That is precisely the reason why he is forced to continue to keep his promise to Billy and Mandy, because if he refused and just left, then he would not be welcome into the underworld. His people would send him straight to the underworld jail, where his scythe and all his powers would be taken away from him. He does not like playing with Billy and Mandy, and he has made that clear a number of times. He imagines killing the duo and feels great pleasure in thinking about it. Although eventually, Billy and Mandy begin to grow on him because even when he is given some time away from them, he would refuse to take it. In comparison, he likes to spend time with Billy more than Mandy because he is kind and generous towards him. On the other hand, Mandy treats him in the worst possible manner and is always rude and unpleasant. But they have one thing in common, which is their mutual dislike and irritation with everything that Billy does. Unlike the usual idea of the Grim Reaper, in this series, Grim is shown to feel bad when someone insults him, since it hurts his feelings. This aspect of his behavior definitely makes him appear more real and relatable. Grim also stays true to his usual character by always giving his evil laugh every time he watches someone suffer. In interesting facts about the cartoon. Let us now take a look at some of the mind-blowing facts about the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy, which are sure to leave you speechless. Remember how the Grim Reaper has a Jamaican accent? Well, Maxwell Adams had initially wanted the character of Grim to have a British accent, for which he had thought of casting Jonathan Harris. But after the audition of Greg Eagles, he changed his mind because he liked how Greg made the Jamaican accent appear more appealing. In fact, another idea of Maxwell Adams that ended up being changed was the broadcasting channel of the series. He had initially approached Nickelodeon with the show, but they did not respond the way Adams wanted. He then went to Cartoon Network, and they immediately agreed to greenlight the production of the series. Billy, Mandy and Grim appear as cards at the end of each episode. These cards are actually the major arcana from a tarot deck. Billy represents the Fool card, which is exactly aligned with his character and personality. Mandy appears as the High Priestess, which basically signifies feminine strength and power. And the Grim Reaper is obviously the Death card, which symbolizes the end of an old existence and the beginning of a new one. Another life-changing fact about the series is that the major deciding factor about whether Billy and Mandy was going to become a separate series or not was actually the audience. There was a huge marathon that included several other cartoons on Cartoon Network, after which the fans were asked to vote as to which pilot episode was going to receive its own half-hour series. And without a doubt, the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy won this big pick. One of the most remarkable and unique things that the series has done is regarding its end credit. If you listen closely, you will realize that there is a strange spooky noise towards the end. Well, this noise is actually the voice of Maxwell Adams. When you play it backward, you can hear Maxwell say, No, this is the end of the show. You are watching it backwards." A highly awarded cartoon series, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy received a lot of fame and love from all of its fans. Ever since its inception, it has gained wide popularity by being successful in keeping the audience hooked to their TV screens. Its hard work and praise were not left unchecked, as the series actually won 3 awards in total and was nominated 9 times for several awards. In 2002 and 2003, the series was nominated back-to-back for the Golden Reel Awards in the categories of Best Sound Editing in Television Animation and Best Sound Editing in Television Animation Music. In 2005, the series won the Annie Awards in the category of Directing in an Animated Television Production. Later on, in 2006, it was once again nominated for the same category but ended up winning a different award. That same year, the series was nominated and won the Emmy Award in the category of Outstanding Individual Achievement in Animation. In 2007, it once again won the Emmy Award in the same category and also received a nomination for the Daytime Emmy Awards in the category of Broadband Children's.
Hi, Grim!
Should Cartoon Network pick it up again from the archives? The series was widely acknowledged when it was released due to its unique plot. At that time, no other cartoon series had even imagined pulling off what the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy successfully achieved. It majorly took a dark concept and the characters of Mandy and the entire structure of the Grim Reaper, which it presented in the most unusual and comical manner, with an insane amount of dark humor. The genius of Maxwell Adams also led the series to have a few made-for-TV movies, and that did not disappoint and turned out to satisfy all its fans. However, it could certainly be a lot more fun if we got to see some fresh and modern horror takes on the series in the form of a theatrical film. It will surely trigger some nostalgia in all the old fans, as well as give the newer audience a taste of the fantastic cartoon era of the 2000s. The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy did not fall short of anything. It had bizarre humor as well as an intelligent plotline that kept on making the show even better. All of its characters went through some personality changes throughout the series, and that only added more to the fun. Overall, the series can be considered evergreen because who would not want to relax with a trio that included a dumb kid, his best friend the Grim Reaper with all his superpowers, and an insufferably arrogant young girl. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. And have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.
Okay, later, Billy.